Alright, I want you to picture this. It's the last section of a long and hard-fought Dust Bowl map. You're on blue, and you've pushed the red team back to their last point. But the enemy team has created a very intimidating last hold. A couple of engineers with the short circuit, or the Wrangler, the Nightmare Heavy, multiple spamming demos along with Pyros checking constant. Your team keeps making a valiant effort to break the hold, but every time the enemy is either able to maintain at least one sentry or rebuild before your team can muster another push, despite the many Ubers. But you have a plan, a great plan, some would call it. You are a good spy player and see that whenever there is a push, the enemy team hyper-focuses on the Uber and is therefore vulnerable to a spy play. So, you, using Invis Watch, are able to, through luck and a bit of expert movement, get through the bottom hallway and up the stairs. You see your demo and medic come around the corner and you know that that's your cue. You are able to stab the wrangling engineer, sap his sentry, and matador the second engineer before the pyro is able to notice. He burns you down, but not before you've sapped the nest and your friendly demo has sent half of the enemy team to the respawn room. You have creamed your metaphorical slacks, having made a game-winning play as the spy class and entering Spy Valhalla. And then a pyro smacks the sentry with the homewrecker, the combo gets destroyed by the knockback, and you pretty much have accomplished nothing. Has this ever happened to you? The homewrecker is bullshit. Well, kind of. Okay, to be frank, the homewrecker is mediocre. It just depends on what end of it you're on. Like, if I had to put it on a tier list, it definitely wouldn't be on the same level as, say, the power jack or the back scratcher. But I have to agree with the spy mains on one thing for once. It feels like robbery to be on the receiving end of this thing. You did all that movement, all that blending in and timing just to have it undone by some furry with a hammer. The homewrecker is a melee for the pyro class that deals double damage against buildings and can remove sappers in exchange for a measly 25% damage penalty versus players. This melee can remove sappers in a single hit, destroy many sentries in a single hit, and destroy any other building in 2 hits. Overall, the homewrecker is currently considered one of the best melee weapons for pyro and contributes further to the synergy between pyro and engineer. Unfortunately, a pitfall after looking at this weapon's stats that a lot of pyros fall into is being overeager to remove the sappers. The engineer has that handled. He's pretty good at doing that as long as he isn't using a jag. What he needs help with, on the other hand, is killing the Frenchman, meaning that the spot where realistically the homewrecker shines is when the engineer and spy are dead but the sapper is still on the building. Problem is, a good pyro would be able to prevent this in the first place with proactive spy checking, although his entire team should also be doing this. Meaning all the homewrecker really does is undo one of the two things Spy, an already bad class, is decent at doing. Breaking sentry nests, because let's be honest, since the introduction of the Dragon's Fury, when was the last time anyone actually destroyed a building with the homewrecker? Additionally, Pyro's melee is kinda useless when it comes to damage. Pyro is one of a handful of classes where the melee is really just nice to have. It doesn't do anything extra mechanically for you, so if an unlock has a utility, it's amazing. For instance, if you run out of ammo on demo, it might be worth going for the melee instead of the reload. But if you're out of ammo on Pyro, you have bigger problems. And in pure damage, you have another weapon slot dedicated to close range damage, and it deals more damage and is more versatile. This is demonstrated by the fact that the best in slot damage weapon is mostly a speed boost, meaning the 25% damage penalty on the homewrecker is rendered moot. Also, consider the following. Functionally, the homewrecker is a straight upgrade to the stock fire axe that occasionally smacks sappers and mini sentries. So the end result of this is a weapon that counters Spy on a class that already bullied Spy players off of the server. Counterpicking in itself is fine and is, in fact, a core mechanic of TF2. But rarely there are a subset of weapons that just completely destroy an otherwise interesting interaction. The homewrecker is one of them, and another is the Darwin's Danger Shield. which makes one of Sniper's possible counters, flares, completely ineffective. Hell, the sapper in itself is a counter to exclusively the engineer. The difference here is that the engineer, while he isn't backstab, still has a pretty fair matchup with Spy. There's also the fact that the sapper isn't normally the best way to destroy a sentry nest. A soldier with a direct hit, a demo man, an ubered pyro with the Dragon's Fury. All of these things require substantially less luck and by their very nature have better kill confirm when it comes to sentries. There are better ways to crack this egg, but the homewrecker on the other hand is the single fastest tool when it comes to removing sappers, outshining even the engineer's wrenches. Granted, as Pyro you should be focused on killing the spy, but that's besides the point. The homewrecker is just bullying, dunking on what is already the worst class in the game and makes the really turtly last point holds even worse. And even if we don't account for other classes just straight up being better at wiping out sentries, Spy and his sappers are very weak to cooperative engineering. In casual, a team with stacked engineers could be problematic, because even if you do go demo and take out one sentry, there are 3 more to deal with and 2 backup dancers to help replace what you did manage to destroy. And if demo has issues breaking a nest, you better bet Spy has issues. The homewrecker takes this situation from bad to straight up impossible for the spy, because now there is a 5th engineer unconcerned with placing buildings with a flamethrower. And a lot of this can lead into a broader conversation about cooperative engineering being a bit too strong and casual and Spy himself being really bad, but that's a discussion for another day. Now, something not being overpowered or underpowered doesn't mean it should stay in the game. If it's just not fun for either party involved, why keep it in? Throughout TF2's long history, weapons have been changed. The lock and load had its damage bonus changed because it was just terrible to fight. The Ambassador had damage falloff added because while it is aim-based and it can't one-shot, being pegged for 102 across the map by a class that has invisibility and the Dead Ringer is just the worst. The homewrecker's sapper removal just serves to make an already frustrating, inconsistent class even more frustrating and inconsistent. It just isn't fun. Alright, so I've done a bunch of complaining. How do I want to fix it? A class other than engineer being able to remove sappers is problematic because it's just that oppressive. So quite simply, I think the sapper removal stat should just be removed from the game. The Neon Annihilator does not need it for what it's trying to accomplish. However, the homewrecker is now looking a bit skinny. Well, the solution I have come up with is to take one of its existing stats and double down. A knockback resistance, somewhat in the ballpark of something like the man treads. Add that to the homewrecker while it's active. Not only does that make destroying mini sentries easier, but it makes it to where it can be used in tandem with Pyro's best anti-sentry weapon, the Dragon's Fury, to make a sentry buster loadout that can get to sentries you wouldn't be able to without it due to sentry knockback, as well as being immune to the short circuit. There could also be some niche application of this stat in situations with explosives, air blasts, and other forms of knockback. Overall, this would make for a more interactive weapon that no longer dunks on the worst class in the game and adds fun utility to Pyro. The Neon... Why does half of them have to be fucking alliterations? God damn it. Dude, fucking, it just makes it so much harder to do voiceover when the Spiggledy Diggledy is the fucking name of the weapon. Oh my god.